Thank you, everybody for coming. It's wonderful to see so many familiar and good faces, and wow, some people have never been to poetry readings before, and even one of my motet singers is here today, so I'm happy to see Mo, who is fabulous. She's also a director of two other choirs. So anyway, thank you all for coming. And yes, Anita, you should have brought more poems, but I'm full of admiration for your ability to write about this really powerful time in your life, the loss of your husband, and those are beautiful poems. So thank you. Okay. I'm going to also read mostly new things. The first one has a title, or the title is What We See and Don't See. Yeah, What We See and Don't See. And actually I just sort of finished tweaking it for the umpteenth time just yesterday, so. And I've only read it to a friend once. Thank you for listening, Marilyn. I've also learned that from Marilyn and her husband Peter, who know a lot about the psychology and the physiology of the brain, that there's a term for what this poem is about, actually. Because I suffered for a while from a lack of brain plasticity, especially in the executive functioning, especially that. So the title is What We See and Don't See, but there's an epigraph by Goethe. And it's an epigraph that is something I saved for years and years because I loved it. It was on a card that Ralph gave me many years ago by Goethe. Nothing is worth more than this day. It wasn't only the falling, which happened at first at odd moments, leaning a little too far to one side, or starting to straddle a slope in my own backyard, the way I'd always done, to simply pull weeds. And it wasn't only my thighs growing bit by bit so weak that when just steps away from my own front door I bent to gather fallen red leaves and fell. I had to crawl on hands and knees to the tree's slender trunk. I had to pull myself up. No, the country my head was in, the country in which I was born, was suddenly no longer home. Denial, the language I spoke there. What were priorities? Household bills unpaid, piled up like compost. Blocks away, a dear friend inched every day closer to death, and where were my tears? To ask what no one dared to ask. After the talk, I was flown across an ocean to give. Why my words careened all over the room, bounced off bewildered ears like billiard balls in search of a pocket, would have been to bid me look in darkness for a match I didn't even know was there. Oh, beloved friends still at my side, and you who fell away, what use is reason in the face of what the body does on its own? What should have been upstate New York Finger Lakes between my cranial lobes were craters of the moon. What use was will against that small benign onion? My surgeon, one bright morning, peeled layer by layer away from the tip of my spinal cord. Under the window he'd cut in my skull and removed, and later screwed back in. A living window to the very center of my soul. Will you write it? Some in their kindness still ask. Oh, patient readers, Once upon a time, a songbird was rescued from 12 long years of forced migration, was ushered back to her own beloved flock and the glorious language of home. The journey was hard. It took many months. But spring had arrived. Finches sharing her feeder were goldening. Chickadees busily coupling, bearing mosses to nests. Within her and all around her, a world of sun and wonder. Why would she ever want to revisit, if only for the space of one more poem, that place of darkness, when all she really wants is to sing of light? So here are some poems. Thank you for going there with me and coming back. And thank you for being here, those of you who stayed with me during those times. A couple of winters ago, Ralph and I had the great privilege of spending 12 weeks in Mexico, in Akumal, a place on the Caribbean. It was an artist's retreat place, and we were given a place to stay at a phenomenally low cost and sort of taken care of, and it was a beautiful spot. I was able to go snorkeling quite a bit, and one of the nice things about snorkeling in salt water is that you don't have to struggle. You just hang there and you just watch. And so I had a great time, and it turns out there's a lot of poems about that place. This one's titled Lingua Franca, which is a term that I discovered after I wrote the poem. I don't think I knew that word. It's sort of like a common language. There are those who say naming a thing takes away its wonder. Morris Graves says that. You know, he didn't want to name his birds. I think other people did that for him, a painter. There are those who say naming a thing takes away its wonder, but I am voracious. And when I enter again with face mask and snorkel, the worldless world of water, which was my first home, the names of fish return, unbidden, to my silent tongue. Sergeant Major, needlefish, rainbow parrotfish, blue tang. Fish whose pictures I've studied off and on and in between earlier snorkeling expeditions, names I think of not at all the whole rest of the year, like the Spanish language, book learned, I can finally speak without constant mental translation, with always a new word to learn. Let's say this venture into the lingua franca of fish is another form of diplomacy. Yesterday it was the juvenile cocoa damselfish I found, with its youthful, flashy colors, cobalt blue, above a slender cornflower yellow belly, nothing like the dark adult it will soon become, the one who nips mildly at my pale, mild thighs, protecting its shallow-laid eggs. Each time I enter and exit the water, oh, may I never grow tired of watching them. I who have always disdained home aquariums, who every day in this salt and freshwater lagoon hunger to learn the habits of each and every fish, whose names translate into mystery, beauty, joy. How can anyone venture amid these constellations in constant motion? They who tolerate this trespass into their glory and not want to kneel before them in praise, if only with the mind's fumbling tongue. Song for Cassiopeia Andromeda. Oh, I better watch what I'm doing here. Song for Cassiopeia Andromeda. It's the first time I read this one. I'll give you a clue, it's a jellyfish. But the poem is about snorkeling around in these waters and seeing this funny-looking thing on the floor of the sand. It wasn't your ordinary seaweed, you know. I was just hanging there looking at it and looking at it. And I went back to find out what it was, and I thought, oh my God, it was a jellyfish. I'm so glad I didn't touch it. Yeah, anyway. Oh, this is the best water ever. Thank you, Joan. It's red. Let me sing praise where praise has never been. This upside-down jellyfish named, though the spelling is one vowel short, for an ancient Greek queen whose claim that her horrible beauty outshone the gods and even the sea nymphs doomed her country to Neptune, the sea god's wrath, to certain destruction at his hand, with only one way out: to offer her daughter as food for Neptune's sea monster friend, and named for the daughter herself, Cassiopeia. Just at the last minute rescued, of course. Her mother sentenced to sit till the end of time in a throne of stars, 6 months of the year upright, 6 months on her head. And we can see her from Eugene a lot, Cassiopeia. Let me sing of a creature like all of its cousins, heartless in its hypnotic beauty. No brain either, no central nervous system, no stomach or bones, no lungs. The pulsing saucer of its body resting upside down in sand, in water no deeper than my waist. A pearly white fist clenching, unclenching, umbrella opening, closing, just under my snorkel. A petticoat sprouting brown-green, ribbon-wide frills, disguised as seagrass, delicate and mindless of my enormous presence suspended just above, lured as I was by the strangeness of grasses sprouting in sand, not knowing their horrible power over my simple human skin. Okay, I should have read Great-tailed Grackle first, because that's funnier. Maybe not. I think I better go on. Yeah, I will. I'm sorry, I'm reading a lot of long ones. I'm just going to have to watch the time here. Great-tailed Grackle. There were poems about birds, too. Has anybody ever heard a great-tailed grackle? They're about the size of crows. They're about as long as crows, but they're lots more slender. And they're loud. I can't say they sing. They don't really sing, but you hear them. So I started naming this bird. I guess I started giving all kinds of names, even though I saw the real name, great-tailed grackle. Rusty hinge, old squeaky door, dishes crashing to the floor. Oh, this is sort of a song. It's a 4-line stanza with rhyme, and it's so much fun. If you haven't written using rhyme very well, try it. It's really fun. I mean, our vocabularies are good now, and there's rhyming dictionaries. We can find them. They're, you know, it's a crossword. It's good for your mind. Rusty hinge, old squeaky door, dishes crashing to the floor. You call this song, you rowdy castanet? I call it a martial art of the beak. And most days you win. You stun me awake. But some days I rise even earlier, climb while the rest of the world sleeps, the steps to my terrace to greet the sun all by myself. You sleek bullet with wings, shrill sputtering lawnmower, Alice in Wonderland's rabbit. Too late, you streak to the rooftop, perch on the same peak as every other day. But the hooded orioles, kiskadees, and even the woodpeckers have kept their dates already ahead of you. who notice me not at all. Croaking your morning declaration to each of the 4 directions, you bristle. Your tail, that slender foot-long ruler, flails the air between you and the whole green horizon with each sky-splitting shriek and minor key cackle. If ever we wanted a bright, golden-eyed flaunting of proud possession, you are surely it, but only at dawn. I don't know what you do the rest of the day or where you go to sleep. Last night, the air was full of mystery. Giant rings around the moon, wispy things like clouds, as though the moon had drawn them together from all the sky till dawn they were under a spell. But you, my jungle jackhammer, challenge even the sun. How dare it rise without your shrill permission? Your hot fat sizzling, cracking open the whole eastern horizon as well as my sleep. And so to save myself, I strategize. What I can't control, I can admire, and go to bed earlier. Oh, such shimmering black iridescence, such swashbuckling glimmering, golden eyes to leave me quivering, eyes that could snare me, stop my heart. And then, sweetheart, you open your mouth. I think I will read maybe 1 or 2 more and turn this over to Ralph. So those are, from Mexico 2 years ago, and I thought they were finished when I came home. They've all been revised umpteen times, but that's fun too. I like revision. Okay, let's see. I have a short one. I'm finding myself going back to notes and journals and pulling things out and saying, oh, there's a poem here, and just playing with it and having fun. So here's just a much more lighthearted one. It's taken from, I'm imitating a poem by Frank O'Hara called, well, never mind. But it's going back to his childhood, looking at a scene in his childhood. Imagine, and this is more than one scene. Imagine golden wood floor of the upstairs gym gleaming, just as when I was a child, and bleachers still rise on cement. Classroom doors with frosted glass panels, one clear pane in the middle, the way I remember, and all stall doors in the girls' bathroom, still deep, rich wood, and marble floors of the hallways, the stairs still green, auditorium chairs still wooden and joined. Is anybody going back to your old elementary school? It's really interesting. Okay, sorry. And marble floors of the hallway, the stairs still green, auditorium chairs still wooden and joined, and the vast 3-story openness over them all the way to the roof, and that stage with its deep red curtains, where once our 3rd grade classes were Indians and pilgrims, where Mandrake, the famous magician, showed us just how unreliable eyes can be, and Dumbo the elephant soared through all of a Saturday afternoon. And here I am, 50 years later, a guest in this castle, in front of your class, teaching. I'm going to skip over the poems from my 3rd book. I got a call from my publisher, or email a couple weeks ago. They're going to take the book out of print if I don't immediately buy 12 copies. So they're going to be really reduced for you guys out there. I'll pay what I'll charge what I paid at cost, $11 each, if anybody wants them. That's the brown one out there. Okay, one short one. And it is from one of my books. It's from Evensong. It's the most recent book. But I want to end with this one. It's titled Some Words to Toss Your Direction. call if the going gets rough, and always the promise, I will. This ritual has gone on for years, and still in these everyday waters that keep on rising over our heads, one or the other keeps floundering, one or the other keeps watch. Twice down, never a third, or the cry for rescue. This distance, perhaps the way of all balance. No need for us both to go down. And still the longing. One word of knowing, someone knows. Tossed out without a line to pull us back in, without a thought to consequence. One bright rescue helping us want to go on. So, thank you.